the adopted movie, and it's controversial. My first year out, Hawthorne James and Ken Lambert got into a really vicious argument in this very room about how much money the Sandra Bland family had received because of their case. What he failed to realize is that the coroner's office came back and said she hung herself. Had they pursued it and not settled out, they wouldn't have gotten a dime because they claimed that she hung herself. So they got the largest settlement that you can get for a black woman, which is $1.9 million, while in Boston, the young woman that got run over by the car, I think it was a $20-something million settlement. And Hawthorne was upset about that. He was like, you as a black attorney should be able to do what the white attorneys do. And it was just very controversial. I have gotten threats over this movie. I have gotten, I know Minister Louis Farrakhan personally. I've recorded him, I haven't been to his house, but I've been to some of his events. The Daily Herald told me not to play this movie and that I should be careful because we're in DuPage County. I got cousins and family members that reached out to me on Facebook and said, N-word, what you doing? And at that point I said, I have a choice. I have a Tyler Mann film choice. I'm going to choose this movie because I was scared to play it at first, and I told this to Frederick. Frederick Hawthorne is the creator, one of the producers and directors of the movie. I told also to Mr. Waller on a video conference, I said, I'm scared to play the movie, man. I said, I'm starting to get threats. And he was like, well, you don't have to play it. And I went to sleep that night, I woke up and I called him like 6 o'clock in the morning. And I said, dog, I'm gonna play the movie. I said, I'm gonna play it and I'm gonna play it with pride. So here we are with 9 wives, and he flew, and she flew out with her husband, Miss Brianna Michelle, and I'm going to just start by saying thank you for your courage to do this film. Can you pause that for me? I don't want this running into, you know how to do it? Just, yeah, do it. Hold on, let me see. I'm sorry. I'm so sorry, Miss Brianna. Let me pause it. Not one. Yeah, just hit the, just pause it in there. Hit that pause button. Yep. I don't want to come across as being scary, but I want to talk about your courage in doing this film. Talk to me a little bit about it and what you thought prior to the script, when they hired you for it, and all the rest of it.
Well, I want to say thank you for playing it and having the courage to do it, because it is controversial. Yeah. You know, it is. I remember when Fred, because me and Fred were supposed to work together a few years before, right before I moved to LA. And that project fell through, and he was like, when I have something, I'm gonna contact you and we're gonna do it. And I'm like, okay. Then he sends me this script and I'm like, Like, I read it the first time and I literally was like, okay, this is a lot. The Nation of Islam is a respected group, respectable group, and it's my people too, and my late brother passed away in 2019, was a Muslim as well. What are they gonna think? And then the more I kept reading it, the more I started seeing Marie, the woman. I related to her in the space of being sexually assaulted. I related to her in the space of not having my father around. I related to her in the space of being shunned in my healing process and my journey, people not understanding, my ups and my downs after being sexually assaulted, and I understood her. So that's why I went into this movie. And
so this went from fear to justification.
I wouldn't say
it
wasn't fear, because I'm not scared to tell a story, right? Okay. As an actress, you're supposed to tell stories. Yes. Whether people agree with them or they don't agree with them. That's not for me to really care about, in a sense. As long as I feel it's something that I want to represent, that's me.
But to keep it quiet would have been a disservice to you and what you had gone through and other women around the world.
100%, because for me, there was so much healing that I'm still going through, that I deal with every day. Not just being a woman, but being a black woman, but being a black woman that has been sexually assaulted, being a black woman that didn't have my father around. Love him to death, but, he passed away too in 2019, but, I just understood her and I felt her, and there's so much healing that was in this script for me. I read it, A few times I cried because I was still dealing with my traumas. You know, I deal with them every day. But I was speaking for other women who've experienced certain traumas, who felt shunned, who've been left out, who didn't have a father, who's been sexually assaulted, and to be able to go and tell your truths without having a response,
Yes.
you know, without having a counter, but saying it with, you know, a bit of grace and not even with anger, but taking that backpack off, you know, because we always carry so much, you know, and a lot of times, you know, we hold on to it and, you know, it continues generations and generations and generations. And I always say healing looks good on you.
I'm going to ask this because I asked this of Frederick, and then I want to open it up to you guys. How does this progress us as a people? Why not keep the dirty laundry in the closet? How does this help? How does this help? So if I'm a Muslim, because my cousin asked me this, he said, how does this film help us move forward? He said, even if Elijah Muhammad did what he did, and speaking of which, Elijah believed that you should marry a woman half your age plus 7. If that makes sense. You should marry a woman half your age plus 7. So if I'm 40, I should marry a woman that's 27 years old. That's what he believed. Anyway, just a fun fact, I guess. How does this help with the progression of Black people? Because the nation does, they give out clothing, they give out food, they give out water, they help people. How does this progress us?
Well,
or does it?
You know, listen, I respect the Nation of Islam. This wasn't a shun for me of the whole Nation of Islam. I don't care if you're Christian, I don't care if you're Muslim, we're human. So we make mistakes, whether you want to be honest with it or not. And Frederick did his research. This was Frederick's truth and what he learned, talking to people who were close to Elijah Muhammad, people who were close to Muhammad Ali, people who were close to Malcolm X. This was his truth, right? And my truth is being a woman that needs to be liberated and to be free of what she's been carrying. So for how it's gonna uplift Black people, I mean, I don't know. All I know is that for me, I hope that women can see a bit of themselves when they're going through things. That once they share their truths, they tell their stories, that's when the healing journey starts. And for me, that's where I was coming from. And I know that, you know, this is a lot because this is a well-respected man. You know, he's the Honorable Elijah Muhammad, you know, quote unquote, unquote, whatever. I don't know what he did do. I'm not God, I'm not a judge or jury. All I am is an actress that's, you know, believed in this woman being liberated and empowered and leaving that room knowing that now she can be a little bit lighter. She can leave that room on her healing journey. She can leave that room and now completely be free in some space because she let off what she needed to.
All right, thank you. I'm going to open this up to you guys. And let's give her a round of applause. Thank you so much. Any questions? Hard questions. It don't matter. Go right ahead, sir.
You said you related to the character a lot from your own traumas. So my question is, when you're working, how do you keep your past traumas, emotions from being raised by your performance without showing that, to the audience?
So he says, when you're working, how do you keep your past trauma and your emotions, especially when you're playing a role like this, how do you keep that past trauma? You mean out of the scene?
Yeah, how do you keep it in check?
How do you keep it in check?
Yeah. Well, you know, I read the script, you know, a few times, and there was times that I cried. There was times that I was mad, you know. But I let my trauma work through me, through her, you know. I try not to hide it. I know when I did this, I was a lot stronger in the scene than when I was reading that script, you know, and I was going through and speaking like my truth and coming from like, you know, I use this character actually as a substitution for so many different people. For example, like the guy, you know, my uncle who molested me when I was younger, the guy who brutally raped me while I was in college, I used him for that, you know. I used it for my dad not being there and being absent, due to his struggles with drugs, right? And then, you know, I watched my brother die in 2019, and so I seen that, you know, so it was just so many. I used him as a substitution, and I just felt a lot more strong when I was there in the room. I just, you know, there's so many emotions working through me that there was just no more tears left. You know, I thought I was gonna be crying because I was crying when I was reading the script. When I was there, I'm like, yo, I'm talking to my uncle. I'm talking to the guy who raped me. I'm talking to my dad. And then I'm looking at my brother, though, with so much love, because there's still so much love that this girl had for Elijah, you know. So there was still love there, but there was anger, there was hurt, there was pain, there was all those things. But for some reason, I was still had some poise and some grace and some strength in me to, you know, just release what I needed to. And so this was also healing for me. You know, there's some things that I never said to my dad that I wanted to say. You know, there's things that I wanted to say to the guy who raped me. I never got that option. There's things that I wanted to say to my uncle. I never got the option. So I used that character to speak to them, you know. So it was a bit healing for me too. It was a nice, you know, interesting healing journey in this film. So I tell Fred, thank you so much for just allowing me, giving me this. It was, you know, I really think it was, because this is my first film, short film. You know, I've done commercials and modeling stuff, but this, you know, this is different. It's very different, and you know, I'm proud of myself for doing it because I was able to heal in the way. You know, and I just hope that, you know, that is felt versus, you know, I know the content is strong, but so is that woman, you know, and we are. So.
Cindy, were you about to say something on the acting side?
Yeah. You never not use your emotions and your trauma. You always use your trauma. If you're not using your trauma, you shouldn't be an actor. I mean, it's therapy. It's better than sitting on a couch. You know, you act, if you are blessed enough to be able to act, and that's so impressive. That was your first movie. Amen, child. I'm sorry, you're not your woman, but you know, to me.
Child, I like that too.
Yeah, you my baby. But but you know, you always, the best actors are the most damaged. Because
I heard what she said, the best actors are the most damaged. It's interesting. Go ahead, I should have given you this mic. Hey, I will say this. What she said, when I'm directing and acting, I ask people to pull from a dark place. I really do. I ask them to pull from a dark place. If I have an actor that can't cry on cue and their parents have passed away, I'll tell them to remember your parents. I'll tell them go there. On purpose. She did a 14-minute monologue. It's different than a dialogue, where you got somebody to play off of. This is a 14-minute monologue. And it's scary because she's in the room by herself. She got camera crew. And then you got the young lady that is the other baby mama sitting behind you.
And not only that, but when we were there, all the other actors were coming in the room. I'm like, listen, like, I gotta remember all these pages. And then, you know, it's like them there. But, you know, actually, I kind of blacked out. Like, I don't even remember so many parts of it. So when I look at it, I'm like, what did I do? What did I do? But I know we were shooting, and we went through. I think we shot it. I think it was 3 times. We did 3 monologues from different, you know, like angles or what have you. And I remember the last one they started clapping, and I completely. That's when I snapped out. I think I was really talking to those people because you know it's so, you know, it's a lot of hurt, you know, and to just experience so many things in life, but then still have to wake up, make up, get up, you know, have a family, you know, go to school, go to acting class. You know, it's a lot. But with these acting classes, like I took Ivana Chubik's class, and thank God to the coach, Alec, one of the teachers. We did a one-on-one session, and he kind of pulled a bit out of me too. Like he said, it was like, use those substitutions. Because I was so scared to talk to my dad. I was so scared to talk to my dad. He was like, use that substitution. Use your father. You know? Because, you know, I think with my dad, I loved him so much, However, you know, he had a substance issue, you know, but when I was around him, I just wanted to enjoy those moments when I was around him. I didn't want to talk about anything bad. I didn't want to tell him how hurt I was. I just wanted to enjoy him. And he had a year to live. They gave him a year to live in 2018, and I flew him to LA to stay with me. It was my first time being with my dad for 7 days, 24 hours a day. Well, the longest I've been with him since I was younger was like 4 hours, if that. So to be with him that long, but I asked him questions. I was like, how did you feel about not being a part of my life? But it was still very kind. But there were so many things that I want to say. It was like I was molested. Like if you were in my life, I don't think that would have been an issue.
Right.
You know what I mean? But I didn't say that to him. You know, there's so many things that happened that if he was there, would have probably changed the trajectory of my life. But I didn't tell him that, you know, because of that love and that fear and that did not want to hurt him. And when he passed, I had this, you know, and so I can talk to him, you know, and hopefully he heard me. But, you know, I love the man. I
believe he did.
Yeah.
Round of applause for her. Any more questions?
I have a question.
You got a question, sir?
How has your trauma driven you throughout your life?
So can you repeat the question again? How has your trauma what?
Driven you throughout your life.
Driven you throughout your life. How has your trauma driven you throughout your life?
Well, thank you, honey, for the question.
Oh yeah, that's right. That's husband.
VBA.
Well, yeah. I just feel that, you know, I have like little cousins and, you know, my nieces, and I want to see them blossom and grow, you know, and I always feel like I always say healing looks good on you, right? And I ended up starting a nonprofit organization called Voices Beyond Assault, you know, to empower survivors of sexual violence and to really give them a voice, amplify their voice, and then provide innovative therapy, because therapy ain't for everybody. You know what I mean? So there's like, you know, there's yoga, there's meditation, there's sound bath, there's pole dancing, so you can start falling in love with your body again if you've been assaulted, you know, like all those things. You know, and I just really, once I got on my healing journey, my life changed. You know what I mean? You know, I stand up a little taller, I oil my skin a little better.
Absolutely.
You know what I mean? Like I walk in a room and I feel confident. You know, I'm able to have friendships and relationships that I didn't have before because I was still numb to a lot of things, still angry about a lot of things. So I just feel like starting that healing journey is so important because you break generational curses once you heal, and you know the people around you, are better. The energy around you is better. So I just feel that just walking through knowing that everything's gonna be okay, because you know you trust yourself to be okay because you're in this journey to grow and to love in God. You know, where God is key and source. You know, so
Absolutely.
I don't know if that answered your question.
Next question. I see you, Miss Virginia. Go ahead.
Hi, Regina. Thank you for all the work that you do too.
Thank you for bringing out the work that we live. I just wanted to ask you, how did you keep that dude asleep that whole time?
Oh, listen, when I hit him, he was snoring. And we had this cut so many times because he was knocked out, cold and snoring, and we're like, oh, cut. And then Fred was like, wake up! You gotta be in a coma. And then when he did wake up, he, was breathing heavy, and it was interesting, but he's a really cool guy.
I want to say to you also that your work that you're doing is just not about you.
It's not.
It's just not about you. For some reason or another, well, for one thing, as Andrew said, we do not like to air our dirty laundry as a race, right? But the other part of it is that we can excuse all other races for what they go through, the trauma they experience, and it could be years and years later. But what you've done with your work, I do believe, is reached out to those sisters who encountered that alleged situation.
Yeah.
I'm going to say that.
Right. Yeah, of course.
But what I'm saying is that black woman I saw on that screen was getting closure. And it's always been said that we shouldn't get stuck in the past so that we can move on to the future. But before we move on to the future, we have to deal so many of us out here who have not been able to get closure, and we're waiting for someone to give us the voice. And you did that.
Thank you.
All right. I saw you hand over there. Yes, sir.
Hi, my name is Lopez. I'm from Los Angeles also.
Oh, is that Lopez?
Had the pleasure of meeting Brianna a couple of times out in Los Angeles.
All right.
I wanted to bounce off with you the question that you had asked her and what the young lady just mentioned also, as far as like how do we progress as a people from something like this. Well, it's a couple of things, because first of all, you did a spectacular job.
Thank you, Lopez. It's so good to see you.
Yeah, same here. Now, it's not so much that it was so much, I'm not Muslim at all, but it's not so much against the entire nation of Islam. People mess up. You hear about these white priests who molested these kids. I mean, they get a whack on the hand and they send them to another Catholic school somewhere. You know, and I know a girl who that happened to. It's like she doesn't believe in God anymore. Period. I asked her why. She grew up Catholic. She told me that when she was a little girl, when she did bad in high school, this was when those nuns wore those big bell-shaped dresses back in the day. I'm not making this up. She said that the nun would take her in a room where the nun was reading a book, make her get under the nun's dress and perform. You know.
Perform over sex on you?
Yeah. And
Okay.
she said because of that, she doesn't love God. She doesn't believe in God. She doesn't believe in that type of leadership. So what I'm saying is, even though I'm not Muslim, this is no reflection on the entire Muslim race. This is one guy who just really screwed things up. And so her performance, and whoever wrote this also did a spectacular job. How do we move forward as a people? Well, too many people have too many secrets. Too many people have hurt. And people who have been raped, molested, violated in any kind of way, that's the perfect vessel, the perfect seed to keep everything quiet. Families don't want to deal with that type of thing.
Sure.
So when you just keep that thing quiet, it just breeds a whole new world, and you living in this secrecy, and now you living in something it could turn you into a monster. I don't know what happened to, that was Elijah Muhammad, I think?
Yeah.
I don't know what happened to him as a kid. Maybe something like that happened to him, and it turned him into what he was. So how do we progress? By not holding it in, by getting it out, by making films like this. People mess up. He was a great man, you know, in front of a lot of people. There are pastors, there are priests, there are teachers. They mess up, they screw up. I would like to say, yeah, they need your prayer. Any of us could just kind of mess up and do the same thing. But as long as we can get it out, as long as we can just like tell somebody, because I've known women who got raped, and I think they say, what is it, 80%, 90% of women who get raped, they don't tell nobody. They don't say a word. Yeah, so it's like, get it out, tell somebody, cry it out, say it in some kind of way. And it's like that in itself is going to help the black race, especially the women and the men, in helping us understand what they went through even more. So you did a fantastic job.
Thank you, Lopez, and thank you for that.
All right. Any more questions? Oh, go ahead, Serena.
I believe that it spoke to young men who just have babies, who convince girls that I love you just to get what they want sexually. So it was a way of, I think it showed a prostitution kind of a thing that was going on, where girls are, because of lack of fathers, they look for the senior guys for love and for comfort and for security. And so it portrays to a young man that this is not the way to go, because of the effect that it has on the woman who has to raise that young man or that young girl as a single parent, because that father is absent. So it speaks to that, to the young men to stand up and be a father. Because in the long run, your generation, because that's your bloodline, whether you accept it or not, you're sowing that seed in that son or that daughter that will have issues, generation curses that you have because you were not in place. So it speaks to a lot of that controversy, that it kind of wakes up, it should wake up the young man that if I have a child, that's my responsibility to take care of.
To piggyback off of that, Mr. Waller, when I was interviewing him on Zoom, he said that the Honorable Elijah Muhammad would groom these girls They would be 14, 15 in the mosque, and then he would set them behind a secretary desk, and then as soon as they turned 17, 18, he would take them, 16? So he'd take them into his bosom when they were 16.
Well, this is what Fred, so Fred, you have to hear some of the interviews that Fred has done
Okay.
with people. It's like, you know, for me, I didn't know much about this, you know, at all, but I did a little bit of research. Fred, you know, shared with me some things, and I'm like, wow, you know, these little, and, you know, supposedly, allegedly, when these girls had babies, they were kicked out of the nation. And then, you know, he actually talked to one of his children that were living in a car.
Yes.
So did you talk to Fred about that?
No, I did not.
It's a lot of interviews and stuff that he's done that he hasn't quite put out yet.
So wait, one of his children was living in a car.
Somebody in his
After
family,
they kicked him out.
someone in his family. I don't know if it's his children or if it was someone like that was the immediate family. Tim was homeless.
He was explaining to me about the grooming process, like per age. Like when they get to this certain age, then they would go into a different element of his love, and that's how he was doing it for years.
Yeah, that's called.
And over 20, over 24 children, from what I understand, over 24 children that are unaccounted for. But through DNA, they've been accounted for in this day and age. And this is where I ran into the problem with the threats. They were like, what is the point? Why are you doing it? And I said, well, we need to just tell the story. Malcolm got killed for a reason. Malcolm got killed for a reason. And be it J. Edgar Hoover or this, or him wanting to start up his own sect, he was one of the greatest orators that we've ever had. And to be silenced the way he was, we don't know if they were in cahoots or not. So it's a very interesting mindset. And I'm not, go ahead, I'm sorry.
I just think that this was like a metaphor for the imbalance of the masculine and the feminine. It's a metaphor for how out of balance we have been for so long, that and men and women both have masculine and feminine. We all have masculine and feminine. You know, some of us are nurturing. You know, I know no nurturing men. Okay. I know creative men. I know what's usually considered. We all have this, but it's been out of balance for a very, very long time. And the reason I believe, because I'm an optimist, we are coming back into balance. That is why these stories can be told now, because we're coming back into balance, and that's why you have a President Trump, and that's why you have this anger and the violence and all this stuff coming out, because they're fighting for their lives. This masculine, not man, this masculine is fighting to stay here, but it's coming here.
That's right.
So that's why we can be open to tell these stories now, because the feminine is coming back. The feminine is coming back. Men don't want to hear the talk. Women talk. We're talking now. The Me Too, all this stuff. It was just a metaphor for the shift and change. She represented the feminine. That character represented the masculine, not the man or woman. And it's coming here. And it's hopeful for me. I mean, I'm friends with the fruit. I'm friends with them. I hung out with them. I knew the secretary very closely of Elijah Muhammad, and he would be mortified by this. But these stories need to be told if we're going to change, and that's why they're being told, because we are changing, and I'm hopeful for that.
All right.
That's right.
Let's go. For the sake of time, I'm going to take one more question. Oh, go ahead.
No, I said we're good with time.
Okay.
Yeah.
I mean, I got to play some more movies. You know what? I'm gonna do something real racist right now. I want to hear from some of the white folk in the room. Y'all ain't saying nothing. Tell me. I want to. What did you guys think of this? The piece that she just did. I want to know. Talk up. Come on, y'all. We family up in here. Let's do it.
Well, I thought it was, for me, educational, because I didn't know the stories, right? And incredibly powerful. I also have a history of sexual abuse as a teenager. And just I was like, oh, wouldn't it be so cool if I could do that to him?
Yeah.
You gonna stand over top of somebody and cuss about
I'm like, you
Go
know.
ahead.
Yeah.
But I just, number one, it's very powerful, it's very beautiful, and it's very moving, is what I thought. And I am learning a lot just by sitting in this room and the conversation and listening.
My survivor system.
That what I was never done, you know, that just because I came from a different world, right? And learning a lot. So thank you very much.
You are so welcome.
Yeah,
We'll make you our last question or comment of the evening.
yeah, I was just gonna say one more thing. I think what they did also with this film is a good thing because nepotism and favoritism is such it's so high on the totem pole when it comes to people with power and in Hollywood. And it's like if you look at Cinda mentioned the Me Too movement and the Time's Up movement, but you don't even hear about that anymore. I mean, they'll bring up R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby or whatever, but it was about 20 or 30 white guys who were in trouble and they just kind of buried it under. But so they're going after these 3 black guys all the time. So I think what this film did was it probably gives people some hope that it's like, look, you really have to tell, you really have to get this stuff off your chest and let people know. Because Trump, he did what he did and said what he said and he became president. And nobody took him down, and all these other guys, you know, Matt Lauer and all these, nobody's saying anything about them. You don't even hear about Harvey Weinstein anymore. It's all quiet and swept under the rug, but they'll make a movie about R. Kelly, Michael Jackson, Bill Cosby, and just leave all the white guys alone. So it's like, this is good because, and I'm not just speaking on white folks, I'm just saying in general, people who were way up there and got that power, people were scared to say something about that. And you have to get that out there. Those people have to be held accountable also, just like anyone else.
Absolutely. All right, we got an award for this young lady and her crew, cast crew. I want to say really quick, this is my wonderful, come on up here, brother. Introduce yourself to the people right quick.
Hello, my name is Jaden Wiggs, and I'm interning here.
Mr. Wiggs is interning. He wants to be a filmmaker. He was going to grow in this business. He and I have been talking, so he was with us last night as well, helping me out, helping me not go crazy. I thank God for him. And he has this wonderful award for you. This is the Tyler Man Film Festival Choice Award on behalf of, I guess, me.
Yeah.
Yeah, absolutely. I want to thank you so much for your courage and your strength, and God bless you.
No, thank you.
And you're going to get some wonderful roles behind this, I'm telling you.
Oh, man, thank you. Jesus' name.
Yes,
God's name.
absolutely. Monologue, okay, good. Let me get some good pictures. All right, man, get out the way. Steal my shine. Yep. Where's your husband? Come on up, husband. I want him up here as well. Is it okay?